Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. And before we get started, of course, we have the viewer's pick of the week at the end of this episode, so be sure to let me know your pick of the week in the comments so you have a chance to be featured on the show. Now, of course, I have a different background and different visual this week, so next week I'll be back to my normal set. But let's get into this week's comics. It's that Christmas week, so you don't have a ton of books, but we had a couple of big titles this week. So number 8 for me is Power Rangers Universe Issue 1. I should mention I read all my books digitally this week as well, so I'll be back to my physical books next week. But this was actually probably the book I was most anticipating this week, so that's a shame that it didn't meet my expectations. I thought this was a different book than it actually gave us. It definitely was more about jumping into the lore of Power Rangers. And usually when we get into this deep mythology and space aspect and cosmic aspect of Power Rangers, that's usually when I'm least interested in the story. So this is just more personal preference. I thought this would be more familiar faces from different seasons of Power Rangers just because of what the covers were looking like. So I was a little disappointed in that regard, and also it just felt very dense, and the artwork, it felt too bright at times. I thought they used a lot of whites here. It just wasn't as exciting as I think it could have been. So overall, giving that 1.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is the event book for Marvel. I believe it's just a one-shot. It's Timeless Issue 1. I've been kind of following the Kang stories. I've obviously been reading Fantastic Four, so I gave this one a shot. I like giving events a shot, but they normally aren't my thing. And Timeless was kind of that. There were some interesting tidbits. Reed Richards' connection to Doctor Doom in this storyline was interesting. I liked the double-page spread of the different timelines and seeing, Young Avengers and Mary Jane as Spider-Man. So I liked the teases. I just didn't feel like there was any emotional beat for me to get into this. So overall, I'm going to give that 2 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is honestly a book I got on whim just because I didn't have that many books this week, so I was like, let me try this one out. And that's Swamp Thing Green Hell Issue 1. I'm a huge Jeff Lemire fan, but I've never been interested in Swamp Thing. But the reason I want to check it out, like if anyone's going to get me into Swamp Thing, it would be Jeff Lemire. And this focused on characters that weren't involved with Swamp Thing, but in a kind of post-apocalyptic world, obviously families involved and how they relate to the green and the red and obviously the connection to Swamp Thing. So, I thought it was an interesting premise for people that like Swamp Thing. The artwork was as gritty as you'd like it for a Swamp Thing story, but not even the family moments really got me into saying, I need to read the next chapter of Swamp Thing. It just wasn't my thing, sadly, but I'm glad I gave it a shot. So giving that 2 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 83. Thankfully, this is a Peter Parker issue, so I like that, but it's kind of treading old water where we get to see Peter still in the hospital and just trying to survive, and it's him it's him not even being Spider-Man, but him trying to overcome his body failing on him, which I thought was super interesting. But it's water we've already seen. It was a little bit too trippy for me. I thought it was a little bogged down as well. Artwork was pretty solid for the book, but I feel like last issue did a better job at conveying exactly the same thing. And I really liked last issue, so I just feel like it was kind of spinning its wheels with this issue. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Dark Reign issue 2. This is another Marvel event, and I've been following it because I really like Daredevil. I love Chip Zdarsky's writing, and this definitely it moves slowly. The most interesting aspect was who's going to be running against Mayor Fisk, and we get to see originally it was going to be Tony Stark. I'm like, okay, we've seen this story before, but now it's going to be Luke Cage, and everyone agreed from the superhero team except maybe Tony. But I really like that twist. I was like, okay, so that's pretty interesting, and we get subtle movement of other characters. We get to see where the Fantastic Four is doing. We get to see what Ben Reilly's up to and how these new laws are affecting these superheroes. But overall, it kind of has that second issue slump where there's not a huge amount of movement. It's very slow. The pencils are okay for this book, where the colors are really good. Love the colors. There's times where I think the facial expressions could be a little stronger. So overall, I'm going to give that 3 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Power Rangers issue 14. This is continuing the Eltrian War, and with this issue, it's an action issue. There wasn't a lot of progression story-wise, but I just liked the predicaments these characters went into, especially if you're comparing it to the show where the Power Rangers are actually teaming up with the villains. And I thought that was cool. And then just seeing Zordon being in action and not just being ahead was cool as well. So I think it was more of the physical moments that I enjoyed, more of the action moments of this issue, because I don't know if it was a big character issue, but it was just interesting characters interacting with each other. People you never imagined to teaming up together, and it was a good action issue in that way. So overall, going to give that 3.5 stars. Also, the artwork is gorgeous for this book, and love the bright colors for this book. So moving on to number 1, which is Robin issue 9, a book that I've been absolutely adoring, and this issue does not disappoint. It is the big culmination, the big climax of this arc, where Robin actually fights against the people putting up this tournament, and Robin not just learning from Batman. It really wasn't Batman. It's Alfred and everything, all the lessons that he learned to say, okay, I got to work with people. I can't always be by myself. And that was just such a big moment for Damian, someone who loves working by himself and doesn't want any friends, has all these people behind him fighting the good fight. And it's cool to see that just how well this is paced. I feel like another book, this could have been their whole entire series for 30, 40 issues, is just this tournament. And I'm glad 9 issues we're pretty much done with the tournament. I'm sure we're not done with facets of the tournament, but we really get to see things wrap up very well here as we get to the cliffhanger of Damian encountering some version of Ra's al Ghul. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. We're also connecting this to the bigger League of Assassins, and obviously Damian's connection to his mom. A side we don't really get to see as often with Damian because we're focusing so much on Batman. And the artwork was just so good for this, for a more action-heavy issue, but still really being able to drive home that plot, drive home some really great character moments. I just thought this was a really well-balanced issue. So overall, giving that 4 stars, and that is my pick of the week. So let me know in the comments below what was your pick of the week, and the viewer's pick of the week from last week was Nightwing, and here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.